Hi, everyone. Today is Tuesday, March 4th, 2025. Welcome. I'm Jeffrey Morgan, and this is a talk I host twice a week to discuss my experiences on the path of soul transcendence. This offering is brought to you by the Movement of Spiritual Inner Awareness with the encouragement and support of John Morton, who holds the mystical traveler consciousness, which is the spiritual consciousness that allows us to do the work that we're doing here today. If you're new to the call, the format is simple. We're going to start by calling ourselves forward into the light, which is calling our awareness forward into the light of God that's already present. And then we're going to chant three Anai hues. Hue is an ancient name for God, and Anai invokes a quality of empathy and compassion. Then I'm actually going to play Breathing Meditation by John Roger, my teacher. And then I'm going to read a poem for you called Only Breath by Rumi. And then we can talk about whatever you would like. So please make yourselves comfortable. I'll call us forward into the light, and then I'll put on the meditation, and everybody can ride on that beautiful experience. And then I'll read the poem, and then we can have a conversation. All right. Father, Mother, beloved friend, God, we call ourselves forward into your most exquisite love, light, and sound, asking for the light of the Holy Spirit and the light of the Christ to fill, surround, and protect this gathering, everyone here, so that only that which is for the highest good will take place. We open ourselves at this time to receive of the guidance and the healing and the clearing of spirit. And we also ask for the clearing, that any karma or negativity that can be lifted be taken into the highest realms of light and dispersed into the nothingness from which it came. We ask for the presence, guidance, and direction of the mystical traveler in Christ consciousnesses, that all that we are doing be infused with the energy and presence of John Roger, that everything we do be baptized and anointed with the beloved that we are, that loving infuse every breath that we take, every cell of our body, every particle in existence. And we are so grateful, beloved, that we are together in satsang, that we are with family in the house of the Lord. And we are grateful for we know that the blessings already are, and that above all we know your will is done. Berush Beshan.
The focal or anchor point of your attention in this exercise is your breath. By focusing on your breath, you maintain an awareness on this physical level while you move into a state of deep relaxation and traverse the inner realms. The action of the inner realms can be confusing with no reference points. You can get caught there. Watching your own breath provides a reference point for you. If you have been passive in your meditation, you must become active again when you come back to this physical world. That transition can sometimes be difficult. By adding an active element to the passive meditation, you remain active throughout and do not have to make that adjustment when you come back to the physical level. The soul realm is active. Also, so it is difficult to reach it from a passive state. The active exercise of breath awareness makes it easier to reach into soul. You can do this breathing meditation anywhere at almost any time. It is particularly good if you are in situations where you are experiencing stress or anxiety. The breathing meditation calms you and brings in self-control and direction that is most beneficial. It quiets the body, the emotions, and the mind, but does not put you to sleep. Instead, it brings you into a greater state of awareness and alertness. It shifts you to a brainwave frequency that allows greater control over your immediate environment, if that's what you feel you need. 20 minutes of this meditation can make you feel as though you've had a good night's sleep. If you get up in the morning and still feel tired, you might take 5 or 10 minutes to sit and refocus yourself on your breathing. This can assist you in getting the energies within your body circulating in an aligned way so that you can have a productive, active day. When you are through doing this spiritual exercise, you will have moved into a quiet state. And you can carry this quiet with you wherever you go. No matter what situation you're in physically, you can be in a state of calm and quiet inside yourself. The peace you carry within you can quiet others as well. This technique is very useful when there's turmoil around you. If someone has yelled at you or attempted to diminish you in some way, or if you've been in a traumatic testing situation and you aren't happy with the way you handled it, the best course of action is to bring yourself into an inner calm so that you can become master of yourself. We suggest that you do this exercise for 15 to 30 minutes at first until you master it. Then you can do it as long as you need to balance a situation that you wish to balance. Call in the light. Begin by focusing on your breathing in and out. This is your reference point and focus point. You may find your breathing slowing down tremendously. You may even wonder when you took your last breath. In a relaxed, calm state, your body has no need for large volumes of oxygen, but your body will still be breathing within the higher consciousness. You can focus on your breath at the stomach chakra, the chest, the nose, the throat, the mouth, wherever you sense your own breathing. You might not focus on any part of your body. You might just sit and be aware of your breath. You don't need to have any thoughts at all. For the greatest benefit, breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. If you have to cough or clear your throat, go right ahead. This does not disturb the meditation. Many times, it is a way to release pressure from your body. If you come to a block in the flow of energy that doesn't seem to release, continue concentrating on your breathing. Keep track of your breathing as your reference point. You may start to hear sounds within your consciousness. Don't let that distract or bother you. Keep your attention on your breathing. You may start moving within your own consciousness and then find yourself completely back in the physical world. It's easy to feel that you're not going anywhere when this happens. Don't let that stop you. This exercise allows for an inner and outer motion. Go right back to focusing on your breathing again. You may lose track of your focus on your breathing, which is very human. Illusions and distractions are part of the process, so just relax and be patient as you continue to focus on your breathing. This exercise is one of quieting yourself. As you become more quiet, these things can cease being a distraction for you. If you start having dreams or focusing on images while you're doing this exercise, you have lost track of focusing on your breath. You can experience some strange things during this meditation as accumulated tensions and conditioned blocks move away. The release can cause unusual images to flash through your consciousness. There's no need to react. Just keep focusing on your breathing. You may feel your head getting lighter and higher, lighter and higher, as though you've been lifted up. This is your consciousness expanding. You may start rocking back and forth with the energy of the light that is present. Don't try to stop it. Your job is very simple. Focus on your breathing. You may also feel activity in the third eye area of the forehead, between the eyes. Don't get caught up in that sensation. Stay focused on that which is most familiar to you, your own breathing. You are using the familiarity of your breath as your reference point while you travel into your own inner realms. Whatever you see, whatever you hear, whatever sensations you feel, whatever you experience, you hold your breathing steady and use it as your point of concentration, your reference point that remains constant as all other things shift. Stay open to all the peace and calm that can result from your focus on your breathing. Breathe in the holy breath. Breathe out the holy breath. You are beloved of God. Berush Beshan.
Okay, here's a poem by Rumi, Only Breath. Not Christian or Jew or Muslim, not Hindu, Buddhist, Sufi, or Zen, not any religion or cultural system. I'm not from the east or the west, not out of the ocean or up from the ground, not natural or ethereal, not composed of elements at all. I do not exist. I am not an entity in this world or in the next. Did not descend from Adam and Eve or any origin story. My place is placeless. a trace of the traceless. Neither body or soul, I belong to the beloved. Have seen the two worlds as one, and that one call to and know, first, last, outer, inner, only that breath, breathing, human being. All right, Marcia.
Hi, that was beautiful. Thank you. I loved that breathing. And it was perfect because I came in confused and tired of talking about the fact that I I cannot, I'm having difficulty lining up with the president. All right. I'm having difficulty lining up with the actions that are being taken. I know it's my story. I know that I've taken him inside to work to heal that. I've taken actions on my own part to avoid doing things to make it worse, like not watching the news as much or whatever. And yet I find I react. And that may be karmic. It may be because I come from a history of Judaism where family was killed in concentration camps, and this brings up fear. And I'm aware of that, so I've given myself compassion in that. So I'm not sure. I listen to what you say, Jeffrey, and I do use the tools that we talk about here. Forgiveness for myself, asking myself, why, if this is happening, how can I love this? How can I love this person inside of me? Because my reaction is inside of me. It's nowhere else. And I'm aware of that. So help.
Um, I was taught about forgiveness and went through those processes of clearing from a very, very young age.
Mhm,
It was part of the vernacular of my house. I would come home and have a experience with a bully and tell my mom about it, thinking that she would pick up the phone and yell at the other parent or go beat the other person up or something. Instead, she would ask me how I created, promoted, or allowed that to happen,
mhm.
which is not what I wanted to hear, by the way. One of the most powerful forces in human lower self-consciousness is our capacity to maintain a coherent story of existence. Cognitive dissonance is present everywhere. And you could attribute a lot of what some would call evil to cognitive dissonance, where people are able to justify the most horrible actions and still think of themselves as a quote unquote good person. And it takes a lot of acrobatics to do so. And we all suffer from that same pressure in the consciousness that tells us that we have to have coherency, that the story has to work. When I did forgiveness years at a time around traumatic experiences or even genetic memories or the things that you're talking about, I would do it over and over, and it always felt like a hydra. Like you'd clear the thing, you'd forgive the thing, and then you'd think it was gone, and then in 3 months it would be back
Yeah.
as if it had never left. And uh, speaking of Jews, Einstein had that wonderful definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. And it may be very sacrilegious to say, I was doing forgiveness the same way over and over and expecting a different result inside of me. There's a very peculiar realization when forgiveness really works. It's the realization that there was never anything to be forgiven. And I know that sounds strange, but if we have a story that isn't true, and any story that's lower than the soul isn't true, and even the soulic story to some extent isn't true, it depends on the level you're looking at it, right?
Mhm.
Because there's a way that you can transcend that soul story.
Yeah.
But when we do forgiveness from the perspective of the story, we in a sense reinforce that story. So if I forgive the asshole Donald Trump, I
I'm
have
just,
I have to understand that I actually framed up a paradigm within which the asshole Donald Trump exists.
Mhm.
And what I found is more often than not, the issue isn't the one that I have to forgive. It is actually the story that led to my belief that forgiveness is needed. True forgiveness inside of me seems to exist when I see the loving and divinity in somebody so completely that I forget why I have to forgive them. I forget. It's like forgiving and forgetting. It really is gone because all that's left is the beauty of that beloved in front of you.
and what if you're not able to find that place of loving?
Yeah, that's another fun metaphor because one of the biggest fallacies of that process of finding loving is it's a lot like looking for your glasses when they're on your head. You are the loving you're looking for. What you're looking for is greater awareness of that loving. And anytime that you feel there's not enough loving in the room, it means you didn't bring enough loving.
Right.
You didn't allow it to shine forth from you because it's an everlasting source. There's a way in which we can challenge the story or challenge the framing. Like behind your desire to forgive Donald Trump is the belief in Donald Trump's evil. Now, do you know that?
I don't believe that he is evil. I don't agree with the actions the man takes. I don't see him as evil. I
But you're
really,
also believing that you know about the actions the man takes. You know about the story that you're reading about the actions the man takes.
yes, and
If
I
you're
have a
talking
personal,
about
yeah,
if you're talking about intellectual honesty, what you know about is your experience.
and that's all.
That's what you know.
Yeah.
The rest of it is just information that's either useful or not. We have functional utility on this level. We certainly don't have truth. So
I never
it
thought of it
may
that
be
way.
it may be something more like, what is the story I'm telling about how the world works that led me to need to forgive Donald Trump? And when you start seeing and challenging that and start seeing, because when you see things from the perspective of the soul isn't particularly political in my experience.
And Jeffrey, when I see the things that I react to, my judgment is about my reaction. Yes, I have a statement that I go through that then I, I make a statement
Well,
like,
that's you working on yourself after you react.
yeah, yeah.
But I'm talking about what led to the reaction. There's nothing wrong with the reaction, but we just need to understand it's really an indication of a process going on inside of you that really has nothing to do with any of those other people.
So I'm a little confused here. Where it's kind of like where and how can I find the source? If there is a source, I don't know that there is a source, or the moment to not get caught and forget the forgiving. I'm kind of
Yeah, so in practice, I would start to observe and start to understand the ways in which your consciousness subconsciously responds to specific stimuli.
okay.
Not about truth or about story. It's like, what is it? At what moment? Is it a
Yeah,
look on someone's face? Is it a sound in someone's voice? Is it an image? And then you start to unpack that and go, where did it get wired inside of me that that means not safe? And that's like you could work with the basic self, you could work with the genetic, psychic genetic level. Maybe maybe you have a sensitivity around a specific tone of voice and a specific energy of leadership or lack thereof that brings up a memory from 3 generations back on your mother's side or something. And then you go back into that and then you can forgive it and release it. Like, and when I say it's like it never happened, it's like there are the body and the consciousness on the lower level, not on the soul, but on the lower level, function like information repositories. If information was defined not as meaning, but as the ordered arrangement of molecules or substance capable of reproducing a phenomenon. So, like a microchip is information because it's an ordered arrangement of silicon molecules capable of reproducing a phenomenon. We become the repository of all this information called experience, called memory, called belief, called trapped emotions, called whatever it is. And we have the opportunity to clean that up and release all of that. But again, that you're looking at the way in which that system of memory and information respond to stimuli, and then your mind's interpreting it in terms of the story of what you think's going on in the world. And when
and
you're and when your body reacts to it, it's like when people say, everybody has, what is it? Everybody has a plan until you get punched in the face or something like that. Like there's a way in which if the body starts going into reaction pattern, all bets are off. It's like there's a deterministic set of reactions that will follow. So if you want to be free of that, it's not going to come from how do I forgive Donald Trump? It's going to come from just observing it and not assuming it's in anywhere personal. It's not personal. It's the way in which certain systems and reaction patterns in the consciousness have been set up in order to work with experiences in the physical world. As you release it, as you clear those things, then you can start to see something closer to truth, which is relating from your spiritual or soulic presence. That point of view, let's say, could be soul-centered. So you're like a soul having a human experience. You've heard that many times, but do you really activate that knowing? And do you live from that knowing? And there's a way, I mean, I can really perceive it when I'm pulled into the story and I'm in a reaction pattern and I'm being ping-ponged around by my karma, or I have this altitude where I go, got it. This is the part where my basic self does this because it was in a war over there. And this is the part where I have tension in my shoulders because I used to get yelled at when people would say this. It was a prelude to getting yelled at or getting hit. And this is the part, but it becomes so neutral that you can start to exercise agency and autonomy with that. And you start to love it and heal it. Like when Jared talks about putting the loving on this and none of that requires story. It's just looking at the energy and giving the energy what it needs to release. The consciousness, to a large extent, even when I'm working with people, it's like you see all these hungry voices searching for fulfillment. And we have it mocked up in this paradigm that says we can't be fulfilled. So people say, oh, I have this horrible memory where this happened, and therefore I'm always traumatized by this. And you go, wait a minute, why don't you just go back into that experience and bring the loving and the healing and the release that you're seeking? Or there's a mechanism that wants to make sure that I'm safe. And so it tends to alienate people and push them away when they ask me about this topic. So, and then you go, okay, well, is there something I can clear that would allow me to experience more fully that I'm protected by God right now? And then you do that. And then all of a sudden the mechanism clears because mission accomplished. It doesn't need to be there anymore. But you see, these things that we call reaction patterns are really strategies put in place by a very well-intentioned uh, orchestra of elements in our consciousness, doing the best they can with what they know. Meanwhile, the soul is observing and loving and loving and observing and loving and observing and observing and loving and occasionally laughing, I'm assuming. But that that's not affected. That level is not bothered by whether you're angry at Donald Trump or not. But if it becomes a distraction to soul awareness, you may want to observe it and work it and get to a place where you really truly know and walk as the soul having a human experience.
As you were talking, um, I was aware that my basic self was scared.
Yeah,
It was reactive. So automatically, I was comforting it as you were talking, and it was clearing. It was just clearing.
yeah,
And so underneath all of the verbiage is stimuli that creates a sense of lack of safety.
yeah, that's why I was saying that.
Yeah. And so if that's what occurs, I know how to handle that.
Exactly. All you have is needs, a part of you that's crying out for that. And we are the divinity that we seek. And we can be our own prayers answered by that presence.
Mhm.
It's like, oh, you want to know that God loves you unconditionally. Well, even if you're just talking to the soul, you experience being loved unconditionally. So you can be the unconditional loving that you seek.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It
Bless you.
really resonated. Thank you very much. And God bless you.
Thank you. All right, Birdie.
Hi, Jeffrey. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I love listening to you. And I have a question. Um, Bottom line is, how can I be more conscious and aware of what's going on around me? I had a car accident last week,
Hmm.
and that I was I was driving into a store. I was driving towards a store, and I didn't remember where the entrance was. And I suddenly saw the um, ah, words, the entrance, And so I quickly turned right to go in. And I didn't even see that there was a right hand turn lane. I just went and knocked into this car. And now I'm dealing with all of that. But what I realized, I mean, I just stood there and inside kept saying, how could you be so stupid to not see that there was a right hand turn lane? And I watch this unconsciousness in my life where I'll put things somewhere and okay, I'll remember that. And then, oh my God, where did I put that? And in long time ago, I've had two other accidents that were very similar where I was backing out of a parking spot and I didn't see the car behind me and just went boom right into it. But when this happened on Thursday, I just, I mean, it was like such rage inside of me of how could I be so stupid? And that word just kept running over and over. And I really worked with myself. I worked my process of, well, JR says that it was actually a very minor accident and it could have been a big, huge thing. Nobody was hurt. Or it could be karma with the person that was in the other car that could be cleared. So I should be celebrating that and be really happy of, oh, thank you, God, it wasn't worse. And I do that now. I've worked a lot over the last few days, but I still go back and forth with what what's wrong with me that I am not aware of what's happening. And then, oh, thank you, God. If this is the worst thing I have to deal with, well, I'll deal with it. So I don't know if you have anything to share about that. I'm totally open to whatever.
When you were young, was it okay to be clumsy?
Oh, I I don't know. You know what? Just flashed in front of me. My mother put me in a dance class, a creative dance
I
class.
was gonna say, are you dancing a lot, still, or not so much?
Not as
Not as
much
much.
as I know I need.
Yeah, so there's a couple. I was gonna say, so there's a couple of pieces. Um, uh, it looks like you struggled to some extent to physically integrate in the body as a kid, and then
Yes.
dance through particularly proprioceptive stimulation. So stretching and then muscle tension would allow you to anchor. And so it would be like your etheric body double could align into the body, and then you would be able to be present. And then you were very physically coordinated. Like from a dance perspective, you could go a centimeter from your partner with your foot swinging and you wouldn't hit them because you could get very precise. But it was very, in a sense, medicinal. Uh, your basic self, though, got it wired that you started doing dance because you were clumsy, because there was something wrong with being not coordinated, and that's why your mom put you in there.
Hmm,
So
interesting.
then, so then that became a basic self kind of mechanism of like, oh, I need to make sure I'm not clumsy.
Wow. The one picture I have of me dancing when I'm little, it's like I look very clumsy and my tongue is hanging out, and it's like, who is this person?
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Wow.
So So, if you're not gonna do dance, I would do at least the ballet type warm-ups or things that create resistance stimulation to help you anchor in your body. Um, you have a little bit of that clumsiness if you don't do that, because what'll happen is your auric field and the concentration of your attention will go about 12 inches above your head, and that can be almost like a drunk. So it's like, so you kind of, loses there's a little bit of lack of equilibrium when you do that. So it would be better to, you get into your body, and even more so at this stage in your life, because this is a time when your basic self would be more insular, and at this point in your karmic cycle in your body, you're gonna be more like in the Indian system, they would say you have kind of like three phases of your life. You have sort of like the early stage where you're a student, and then you're like a householder, and then you have like the sadhana period where you go into meditation. So it would be like you were more social, would be more social before, and now you would be at home alone doing meditation more often. But with that also comes, because you have that inherent floatiness anyway, or ephemeral quality. If you don't have physical stimulation, it's going to be even more so. So that'll lead. So you have the forgiveness wouldn't be around. It's almost like the way to heal what you're talking about, the swear, like what you were saying, you were like, how could I be so stupid? The whole thing. It would be going back in and healing with your basic self, where you see yourself holding your basic self and loving on you and your clumsiness. So first is making it okay that you're clumsy, and that you have a method of anchoring your body. But it's not so much, and the truth is, it's not that you're clumsy, it's that you have a consciousness that's just a little less physically anchored unless you stimulate into the nervous system.
Yeah, it's funny. I've never used the word clumsy, but that makes so much sense.
No,
More,
clumsy is a judgment that people make as a result, like you bump into stuff or you knock stuff over.
yeah,
But if you spent most of your life dancing, it wouldn't show up. It's only showing up a little bit now because you're not as active. Just because it's very medicinal for you.
totally,
So
totally.
um so the basic self has a pressure on it, because it's like, if I don't do it, then I'll be, I don't know what the word is, but like, if I don't do it, then I'll be silly, or
Hmm.
I'll be stupid, or I'll be like the image that you were talking about. So healing that will make it okay. Nothing happens in the life of an initiate that is not a karma that has been handed by the traveler. So there's no accidents. Nothing happens by chance, hazard, or against you. It's all for you. So you bumping into them might have given them their astral initiation. The poor suckers. Um, but on the other hand, um, there's a way in which, when you're working with your 10% level, it's important to cooperate with how your consciousness works. So it's not like, oh, I'm so stupid. It's like, oh, that's what happens when I don't do the things that cause me to anchor into my body. I don't have a lot of awareness in space. That's why I said proprioceptive stimulation.
Yeah, I
So
know
it's
about
like
that.
when you have, it's almost like you expand at the crown area, and you feel big, so big you don't know where your body ends in the world. It's kind of this expansiveness, which is really wonderful for spiritual exercises, but can be really bumpy in the physical world. So,
Wow, that's I had no clue that there was an interconnection of body and all the stuff you're talking about.
well, I
That's
mean, check it out for yourself. That's
yeah,
just what it looked like to me.
yeah. Well, and I know that I haven't been doing enough movement. There's
Yeah,
something
I would say that's
going on.
accurate.
Yeah, and it feels like there's something going on of a shift in my consciousness or something that has made me um I don't know if the word is stubborn or
It's not
lazy.
stubborn, it's disengaged. You're in a phase
Yeah,
karmically where you're more out of the body and more inclined to be out of the body, even when you're physically conscious. So you're not going to have the same motivation physically that you did before to do the movements that will allow you to anchor, because you'd rather be up there with the pretty lights.
but I don't have that conscious connection with the pretty lights. I
No,
Oh, they're there, but I don't.
I'm saying when you do your spiritual exercises, when you go into that peaceful place, when you're in the quiet, when
Yeah,
the loving comes present, I'm saying that you'd be more inclined to be in those experiences versus physically engaging with the world. So it's not so much of a stubbornness, it's more of a disinterest in the physical world because of the karmic phase that you're in.
totally. Disinterest is such a perfect word. It's
But in terms of like, you're still going to drive your car, you're still going to go to the store, so it would be useful for you to do proprioceptive stimulation just so you can remind your consciousness where your body ends and other objects begin.
got it. Thank you, thank you. Thank this. That was so perfect. Thank you.
My pleasure. Jennifer.
Hi, Jeffrey. Thank you so much. I'm dealing with pneumonia. So it's interesting. We had a breathing
It was
meditation,
just
and
for you.
it was perfect. Thank you. And I'm coming up. There's a line in my ministerial blessing that says, breathe in deeply of this moment now. And in this moment, know that the spirit resides fully within you. And I literally had to take a deep breath. Excuse me. So I'm sort of in between. I'm disinterested in this world is one of the things that's going on. I feel like the door to this world is closed, but the windows are open. The door to spirit is closed, but the windows are open. And I'm in between the two, like seeing a repository of basic selves. I don't know if that's something that's real or not, but I'd like to be more enlivened, I guess, or I don't know if that's the term, but I don't know, it's part of aging where the world, the society's going, okay, Granny, boomer, sit back and just take your time with the rest of your space here. Don't take up too much air or something like that. So I don't know whatever you have. The other thing that's coming up is a pattern of not completing things.
Yeah.
I'll set up my bed, and within 5 minutes, it's chaos, and it seems to be whatever. I'm not doing the upkeep required to maintain an orderly or pretty environment.
Do you naturally process in an orderly way or linear way?
No,
Yeah, I
chaos.
didn't think so.
Chaos is part of my creativity, I think. God's
Yeah.
blessing.
Yeah, oftentimes people will use their physical environment or physical images to process and kind of sift through the data, the energy of consciousness that they're working with that feels very tangled. It's kind of like taking off the Christmas lights out and kind of laying them out and trying to untangle them a bit.
Yeah.
I think it's also attitude. I mean, if you if you know that you process that way, it might not be useful for you to consider completeness a made bed versus just seeing it as a part of your process. It's very easy to look at how other people function,
Yeah.
which you've done, and decide that that's right and how come I don't function that way,
Hmm.
then judge yourself, and then try and function that way and fail miserably and then judge yourself again. Versus just going, okay, maybe this isn't a defect, maybe this is a feature, maybe this is actually how Jennifer works. I'm going to go ahead and do this as well as I possibly can and have fun doing it and make jokes about it.
Hmm.
And that's what works best. Now, when you're talking about interacting with the world, the other thing that I saw when you were sharing is so part of that dynamic when we talk about um, you know, having trouble interacting or seeing how others interact and feeling in a sense left out or being kind of compartmentalized as an old lady or a boomer or whatever you were saying. Um, Part of that is also comes back to the same thing we were just talking about, which is who you think you should be and how you think you should be interacting versus starting with a clean slate and saying, how does this beautiful beloved one express? If you try to do the discontinuous energy pattern of your older ego identity that worked 20 years ago, you may be very disappointed because people shift, people change. So you become, so what I've found is the more exciting question is who is this one now? Who is this vehicle that's present right now for experience for this soul? Do you get what I'm saying? So it's
Yes, wisdom and
rather
joy.
rather than exactly rather than attempting to resurrect a zombified, anachronistic version of yourself and trying to make it work in the way you remember it working, assuming your memory works, and then thinking somehow it's not working or thinking it should look like something else. The question becomes, what if this was the most precious, perfect, beloved version of me that God has ever given me? And how does this one choose to express? How does this one interact with the world? And then doubling down on that. It's not a it's not a you thing or unique to you to just have a mind that won't leave you alone. That's a pretty common challenge. Thinking that you got to fix something or something's broken or something is just because you were raised in a context that looked one way and you were completely different, or just because you've communicated or functioned different than other people most of your life. I mean, maybe they need an upgrade to understand you, you know? It's not necessary for you to try and play their game. You've already lost at that one.
Yeah.
But if you play your game, you win every time.
I think it's appreciating what my game is now. More loving. I'm definitely more loving, more confident in the sense of I don't really care anymore. I guess it's wanting to be more of a vehicle for spirit. I guess I'm not seeing. I am comparing myself to what it was, the energy, the thought, the memories, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I'm saying be hyper present. Be hyper present. Like
Hyper
what
present. Thank
like
you.
the breathing thing, the line from your blessing, the
Yeah.
other part of that was not just breathing, it was also being present, right? Being in the now.
Oh,
You kind of missed that part,
yeah, I
right?
did.
Yeah,
There's
so
my ADD, but I've been accused of being or diagnosed as ADD. So as they say, we
yeah,
can't.
you don't
Yeah.
need
So
I
let go of all
mean,
that stuff. It's part of God's.
we can also just clear that judgment too.
So yeah, that's the second part. That's really a great part. And accepting, I'm just surrounded for some reason. I'm surrounded with a lot of people that are very close tolerant about certain things being a
That's
certain way.
great. You can teach them how to relax a little. That's good.
Yeah, I've actually been doing that with loving, just flooding them with loving, with their criticism, and just going, oh, Sparky, and touching their shoulder or something. And they don't really have a reaction, but they just sort of melt a little bit. And they see the animals reacting, the cats coming around and stuff like that. So
Yeah,
it's a
it's
great game.
yeah, it's not about changing to accommodate people. It's about putting the loving first, as you mentioned, and loving first your own way of being and loving it in all of its nuances and eccentricities. And it's being present to your precious presence and
and,
honoring and cherishing that in you.
and accepting the worthiness that I am a child of God and that my time to go home will be there when it's perfect for me to go home. There's something that's grieves this world. I hate to say it. I don't not hate to say it, but it's interesting that I've been here a long time, not just this lifetime, but it seems like we all have. At least that's what it's, I don't know if it's a story I'm making up, but it seems like sort of a melancholy or like sentimentality or something.
Yeah. Yeah, no, the the people that are going to be called home by the mystical traveler generally come into the world with a loneliness that can't be shaken
Yeah.
or a weariness that can't be shaken.
Yeah.
And I think the fallacy that people get into, and I'm raising my hand on this one because I've been in Disneyland a long time and I've been on all the rides, and the ones that make me nauseated I had to ride on even more than the others, and I'm ready to go home. But I think the fallacy we get into is we don't realize the kingdom of heaven is at hand, that you don't have to wait to go home. You can be in the kingdom of God right now, and that you are that presence already. It's just a question of, are you remembered to that, or is your awareness in that at any given moment? And it's not going to happen in the standards or the ideas of what other people are doing. It's going to happen at the moment where God meets itself in you. And that's this moment. And it's an eternity in the shape of a doorway for a split second every second. But it's right there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And if you live there, then we can let the world be what it is. We don't have to save it. We don't have to fix it. If we're smart, we just love it because that's what God would be doing. That's what God is doing.
Yeah. That door is open.
Yeah.
And my prayer is being present. Thank you. Thank you so much. God bless you. I love you
God
so
bless you.
much.
God bless you. All right. I have just a moment left, and maybe we could post the little advertisements. I think there's still spots for the fundraiser that Michael and Alicia Hayes are doing, I think this Saturday. So go to that, support the work of the Movement of Spiritual Inner Awareness. I'm also participating in a fundraiser for Insight Seminars, another organization set up by John Roger, and consider going to that too. Thank you all for coming. God bless you. I love you. Peace be still. The blessings already are.